Hello, everyone. Welcome to Complexity Weekend, November 2021. Hard to believe it, but it is indeed already the closing live stream. This is going to be an awesome live stream. We're going to do a little recap of the weekend, and then we're going to have a lot of time for presentations with the teams that arose during the weekend, and then some conversation before we head over to the atrium for the after party. So for the next 10 minutes, just to kind of warm up and get us back into the mood, we'll hear from Future Fossils, Michael Garfield. So enjoy the next 10 minutes or so of cybernetic tunes, and see you in about 10 minutes for the organizers closing and then the team presentations. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the closing live stream. We're live now, so thanks everyone for joining in. Well, wow. While I get some windows prepared, Jessica, Sean, Blue, organizers and facilitators all, maybe each of you could just give one thought, just Jessica, Blue, Sean. I'll prepare the live stream screens. We'll let a few more people join. We'd love just to hear a closing thought or just some opening of the closing.
Did I get nominated? Okay, I'll go first. So I had such a good time at this CW. I think my facilitation sessions were just a blast, and I loved making like sticky sculptures out of tape with Kai, and I loved the like alternating sessions and office hours, and just really fun CW times. Probably, doing too many sessions and not taking enough breaks, which is why I'm always encouraging everyone else to take breaks because I don't. But yeah, that was my takeaway, and a lot of new people that I met and a lot of interesting faces and cool interactions for sure.
Nice. Jessica, what about you? What was your experience as a first-time organizer?
Oh, well, I had a lot of fun, and it's always great meeting new people in complexity science. I'm a more applied science, so I learn a lot about the theoretical side and the data science side. So I'm always look forward to that. And the sessions, we did try the beer game, and we learned a lot, even though it didn't work as planned. And so maybe in the future we can try the beer game again.
Sean?
Nice. Yeah, I can just kind of reflect a little bit. I think every cohort is so different, and it's such a different experience every time. We're actually recording in Gather right now, which is really exciting. It's the first time we've tried that, this cohort. We're actually in a giant space, a big co-working room. We actually filled out every single team co-working space. We actually produced enough teams to fill this entire space, which is awesome. That's definitely more teams than we've had before. It's going to be very fun, I think, for everyone watching to see us learn the affordances of Gather and recording and live streaming from Gather. We've got Sasha, a facilitator, repeat facilitator down below in the green room, who's going to be kind of orienting people and bringing them into live stream. We'll be floating all over the place, almost like Conway's Game of Life kind of gliders, just all over the Gather space, getting participants who are here in Gather with us, actually to come into this video recording studio and enter the live stream. So it's really fun, these kind of like metaverse-like interactions that we've been doing for a while now at Complexity Weekend. Just seeing that mature a little bit, like our understanding of the Gather platform and synchronous spatial video chat affordances and what that means for facilitated live sessions or for co-working and teams and learning by doing. And it's just been astounding. I think one thing that was probably the most successful experiment we did this cycle was the 1 hour on, 1 hour off schedule. I believe in, and if you believe so or against it, let us know and give feedback. But we had even hour UTC live sessions and odd hour UTC office hour unstructured time, and it was interesting. It was really nice to see live sessions end and people have stuck around, sometimes, and some teams formed then, or the conversation was just amazing. I've actually heard of people staying so long, an hour after the live session, and the next live session was like, hey, go use the room now, which is just really funny to think of. Dan, what about you? What was your take this time?
A lot, even just what you all said. I think in that last podcast / live stream we did with Future Fossils right here in this room, and thinking about online spaces and how we're learning by doing and iterating and getting feedback and connecting that to complex systems ideas. It was a very fun weekend. I had a lot of memorable sessions, things I didn't expect to be learning about. And then the session that I co-facilitated, we ended up doing like some rapid team formation just right after the session. So it was super fun. And let's just get into it with the closing live stream. So make sure everything looks good. Okay. And everybody who's watching live, please do feel free to write questions or comments in the live chat. And in the first part of this closing ceremony, we are going to give some closing thoughts on return of the cohort Jamboard, as well as supporting the Complexity Weekend community of practice, giving feedback to Complexity Weekend, extremely important, and how to stay involved and contribute. Then in about the second hour or around thereabouts, we're going to hear from our teams. So we've heard from most of our teams. We had 12 teams RSVP over the weekend. So not 12 things people were working on before the weekend, but actually 12 teams that stepped up and made something happen. And that's just really exciting to see. So we're going to have at least 2 videos that have been submitted already, and then at least 5 who are going to come onto the live stream. So that will be just great. Each team will have about 5 to 7 minutes, and then we'll see how we're doing on time, and we can have a little discussion too. And then after the second hour, the team presentations, we'll have our true closing remarks, and then provide details on the after party. Hint, it's in the atrium. Okay, so wow, what we accomplished together. Many hours of applied complexity content was recorded. So we had about 30 or 35 facilitator intro videos from about 2 to 20 minutes. And we had 4 live streams, the beginning, middle, and end live streams, plus the one with Future Fossils Complexity Weekend crossover. And then there was that which was not recorded, which is the distributed conversations amongst all of you. And that's just amazing to think about how much learning and sharing and connecting was able to happen through colliding and gather and arranging ways to meet off the platform. We had 20 or more pre-weekend events. We had a really nice pre-weekend phase where we kind of clarified our understanding of the people, tools, and ideas, hopefully in a way that allowed participants from every time zone, from every familiarity with the people, the tools, and the ideas to understand that they were welcome and encouraged to participate. And then we saw 12 plus teams emerge. We only highlight the teams that say, yes, I would be open to having more participants join. So many more seeds form, many teams that just aren't ready at midday on Sunday. A lot more is happening, but even the tip of the iceberg is really awesome and a diverse set of teams that all of you are working on. And of course, what it means to have the closing ceremony is to mint and congratulate and thank and appreciate this cohort that we were right now, which is the 230 participants and facilitators and organizers who came together and kind of loosely threaded at first through the pre-weekend and then really bound together more tightly during the weekend, and then off we go. So what a weekend. Any of you, Jessica, Sean, Blue, want to add a thought?
Blue, I like you again.
Off we go, right? Like, so is this the end or is it the beginning? That's always the question, and it's up to you to stay connected with CW, with your cohort, with each other, to keep coming back to the gym, because, you know, you can go to like a marathon, but then after that, you know, you're going to really see results. You have to kind of keep engaged.
And as organizers, we always say, like, we're landing the plane as the weekend is taking off. The organization takes place in the months leading up to the weekend. So we're landing the plane, and then the plane for the weekend is taking off. But it's just as fair to say that the weekend plane is landing in the closing ceremony while you and your complexity journey is taking off. So it's kind of like, just there's planes taking off and landing. It's an airport.
So I have to just respond. Like, I don't feel like either plane landed. I feel like I jumped like mid-air out of one plane and into another. Just saying.
You land on the cloud and pierce right through it.
The end is the beginning is the end.
So the accomplishment is not an end point. I don't think that one for such a winding and forking area like complexity could exist, but we accomplished a lot. So it's awesome to just like pause, take a breath, and acknowledge that For many people, maybe they're super familiar with complexity, and this was like a interesting way to re-engage with the community. For many, they self-evaluated as very unfamiliar with learning or applying complexity, one or both. And so especially to them, really thanks for being brave and for helping us accomplish this. Speaking of our cohort, just to recap, we had about 160 participants from 56 countries, truly covering every possible time zone. And our participants came from so many different backgrounds. We asked in the registration data, what is your familiarity with learning or applying complexity? Learning is on the x-axis, and then applying is on the y-axis. And we have 1,1 and 10,10, and then every combination in between. So everyone is a special and important contributor to a community of practice. Anyone want to just like give any thoughts on the cohort? Like, it was one thing to see the registration data, but then it's another thing to actually collide with them in Gather, right?
I think one thing I'll say is like I'm always surprised each cohort by the interactions. Like, there's always such novel perspectives that I feel like I just shoot between one conversation interaction to another, where I'm being completely surprised by novel information or new perspectives. And I just love our community and that our cohort has so much representation from so many different backgrounds and perspectives, but also countries and time zones. And people probably who know me know that I do during the weekends at least stay up quite late. So it's actually fun. Like, as the hours kind of go, like the countries change. It's such a fascinating phenomenon to be in a global community practice.
I really appreciate being able to meet new people across the world. And then on the other side of the world, I'm disappointed when I finally get too tired and I can't stay awake to meet those people. But like, we had people connecting that they just don't have the resources where they're at. And so that's what's so great about this, is we can meet with people and provide resources and assistance.
Thanks, both. And also, everyone is welcome to be a facilitator. Everyone is welcome to organize. So we hope to have this global representation in participation at every single possible level. So just to recap the kind of temporal dynamics of the community. Twice per year, from back then till deep time, we have cohort-based weekend events. And that's the big spike in energy on the y-axis. That was October 2020, May 21, and this current weekend, November 12th or 14th, 21. And then during the other 10 months per year that don't feature a full-fledged weekend, we have a heartbeat, which we'll talk more about, but heartbeats are informal, they're drop-in, come when works for you. They're also during a weekend, but they're much shorter. There's no asynchronous component, so there's no keybase for heartbeats. It's just meeting and gather, and so it's an awesome introduction. If you had fun, bring a friend to a heartbeat. It's really just one of the most important ways that individuals come to enter our community of practice, and it's also just an awesome opportunity to reconnect with people who you met from your cohort and other cohorts. So there's that oscillation with a little bit of a self-similarity, dare I say fractal dimension. And then in the backdrop, although in bright highlighter yellow, is you and your team. And you can use the rhythm and the platform and the approach and the specifics that work for you. So if you want to use a different platform to keep on working with your team, then go for it. And we're going to hear from a bunch of teams in this live stream. So that'll be awesome to connect some of this like community level rhythm to somebody who's going to be sharing about how their team plans to actually carry forward. Any comments on this?
I think one quick comment would just be the goal of Complexity Weekend, kind of the global community practice, is to create this kind of annual standing calendar of 2 weekend cohorts and monthly heartbeats, and to have that actually propagate through deep time. So we really want to create like a backdrop, a community backdrop to apply complexity, learning by doing practice. And that backdrop is always available to you. So whether you're on a team that, leaves the weekend and then decides after the weekend, actually, we don't really want to be a team. Maybe we'll dissolve the team. That's totally fine. You can always come right back to the backdrop, meet others, start new teams, have an individual complexity journey. It's all good. Any other comments, Blue, Jessica?
It doesn't have to be locked into this either, right? Like, so here we are, we've got the weekends, we've got the heartbeats, but like, if you guys want to use the gather space and get together to have complexity lunch once a week, like just to hang out, like let's all meet in the gather space for 1 hour at X time, or like, we could do it in quadrants across the globe for lunch hour or whatever. So maybe it'll be dinner hour for others, but whatever. I mean, the point is that the space will continue to be here. Your cohort will continue to be here. The key base will continue to be here, and you can use it for whatever you want. So if you want to just get a study group together or a book club or anything like this. I was assaulted by Paul Dentropy with books to read this weekend. Like, thanks. My Amazon cart grew by 10%. Just saying.
Thanks.
And I like the analogy Blue said. It's like going to the gym. And especially if you think you're losing motivation, hitting those heartbeats sometimes will help rev the engine again. And if you're stuck, sometimes you'll come unstuck if you spend that heartbeat weekend.
Great point. Thank you, Jessica. Sean?
One last comment is I think a collective goal kind of for the Atrium space, because it's always online, it's public, is one day in the future, perhaps, we can have global participation to such a degree that maybe every hour there's 1 or 2 people in there interacting, right? How amazing would that be to just have a space that you can go at any moment and there's complexity-minded people interacting, collaborating in that space, waiting for you to show up and participate.
Sounds cool. Another revista of our community is by thinking of it in a role-based way. So previously we talked about the rhythm of events through time, and this is kind of, for one event, like a weekend, a snapshot. The biggest circle is participants. Everyone is a participant. So if you're listening, if you're lurking, if you're super active, if you're the emoji king, then you're a participant. And there's many, many ways to participate that we've seen, and many ways that we'll surely learn about in the upcoming years. The 2 main ways that participants get involved is through that monthly heartbeat or through the biannual weekend cohorts. So it's those 2 kinds of events that bring individuals into the community of practice. We have a few other roles that really scaffold the community and help it function. Those are the facilitators, which is an event-specific role. This isn't a crew. This is not a secret club. This is an event-specific role of facilitating sessions, and facilitating is about facilitating participation. Organizers are kind of like the facilitator's facilitator, the second order cybernetics. We're participants too. We also just love spreadsheets and organizing and communicating. Associates and supporters are those who provide financial and non-financial support and are really just vision aligned with our community and help us exist. And then there's the teams. Teams and committees are formed inside, those are committees, at the interface and outside of Complexity Weekend. And that's one thing that differentiates a community of practice, a participatory one, from, say, a bunch of people who like a book. So that's our community from a role-based perspective. Would any organizers like to add any comments?
Maybe one thing would be just really paying attention to those little white circles. We're all in that big green circle, right? Participants, and then there's different roles you can put on, different events and whatnot. There's ways in the heartbeats, the different cohorts, but really, you can't really stress it enough that one of the best ways perhaps to learn complexity is really to learn it by doing on these teams. So either the teams that you form with others or the committees, which are just public teams that work on Complexity Weekend outputs. They're all great opportunities to really unpack these general kind of complexity concepts into a specific context, whether that's our own community of practice or events as a complex adaptive system. But that's kind of where the rubber can meet the road, and really where no matter where you are in your complexity journey, you have something more you could learn by applying it with very diverse minds in these settings.
Cool, thank you. And just in the live chat, people saying they learned programming, like Python, that was probably from Sean, and doing live streams. People also had many books and links they're going to take months to go through, people to contact, just so many things come out of the weekend, and the teams are just one part of it. How do teams proceed past the weekend? Sean, do you want to give a first pass on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is no general answer, right? It's up to you as an individual, collectives of individuals as teams, right? You can have half the people on a team who really want to continue. They're going to meet every week and they're going to hit all these deadlines. And then half of that same team being like, that was a really fun experience on the weekend. Maybe it's time, for me to actually bow out and support in different ways, but to go back to the community. So it's completely a personalized experience. The only thing we would really stress just from, a team dynamics perspective is if you really do want to stick together, really commit to some sort of recurring meeting time. That's such a key way to stay together and synced. You can have asynchronous work and all that, but synchronous work is really, it can be important to keep that coherence, and and the frequency of it really can depend on your goals. So for instance, if anyone out there wants to become an organizer, the organizing team for the weekends, they basically commit to, however many months beforehand, either 4 to 6, or depends kind of on the weekend, but you're going to have weekly calls. And that's our beat of synchronous collaboration, just 1 hour each week. And then we have asynchronous work and everything to stay coordinated. And that's how we've structured the event-specific organizer teams, and how we actually have the committees running right now too. And that all might change, but if there's a really big deadline coming up, then maybe you meet twice a week, right? Or maybe if there's nothing immediate on the horizon and you just want to make sure you don't dissolve and you can stay connected, maybe you back up into 2 times a month, right? Or even monthly, if it's a type of team that's just people who want to meet and share references and learn and are all on different teams, that could be a type of team that only meets monthly or quarterly even. So it's completely personalized. What does anyone else think there?
Blue or Jessica?
You have to find what works for your team, but from past experience, if you want to keep moving forward the project, regular meetings are what going to help keep the project moving forward. And then have a system for asynchronous work. We have Keybase that we've been using, but I know some people prefer Slack, and that way someone's sleeping, the other person can be working on the project without losing that connection.
Thanks, Jessica. Blue?
Just keep it going. So, I mean, you have to put energy in if you want to get output out. So whatever your team sync, async, I mean, if you clearly define roles, Sasha and I talked a lot in the facilitators catechism session that, if you have clearly defined roles, a lot of async work is possible, but you have to sync up to kind of mind meld periodically. But if you do the input, and even if you just do a asynchronous check-in, like, hey, this week I did this, and this week I did this, and this week I did this. And if everybody, all 4 people of your team check in, but you're like the one person that did nothing, like, shame, right? Like the social pressure. so like you're obligated to then do something, even in an asynchronous kind of check-in. So, I mean, there's lots of ways to structure team projects that can work around time zones and schedules and other responsibilities.
Thanks, Blue. Sean?
I think something that we've talked about in previous live streams as well was the skill of gracefully bowing out. I don't know if people remember that conversation, but like that is such an important skill in this setting. And it's just a nice soft skill to have, where if you realize, I'm actually overcommitted. Like I was at that peak energy of the community energy, and I overcommitted. Well, that's okay. Just let everyone know. And then, and it's, it doesn't have to be hard feelings. It doesn't have to be, people getting upset. They could just be like, I'm actually maybe not interested in the mission anymore. Sorry, it's kind of evolved in a way that I'm not as into anymore. Just gracefully bow out, come back to the community, and you can still connect and support each other. Blue?
so much better than ghosting your team, right? Like, because what's going to happen if you like, say you just ghost your team and then like you want to come back to CW because you remember how fun it was, and then like 6 months later you see your team like, oh, it's kind of awkward and weird. Like, it's better if you just jump in, and if you don't have bandwidth, like, we're all spread out doing millions of things and you have to prioritize, and that's just the way that the world is. But bowing out is better than ghosting, for sure.
Awesome. Stay involved. So I'm going to just refresh this slide because now it's a little bit updated. Things are always changing, aren't they? The December Heartbeat is the next event because November we had a weekend. So December we'll have a Heartbeat, and then we pick up in 2022. So the December Heartbeat, there's going to be 2 intervals of 4 hours, and the times are presented here. Sean, if you could, in the live chat, put the RSVP as a participant link, and it's also going to be included in the feedback form and the follow-up email that we'll be sending out to you early this week. And we'd really encourage everyone to be a participant, to invite their friends, to share it however they want to, and also to step up to be a facilitator. A Heartbeat is an awesome way to test out some facilitation that you've been thinking about. And other than attending events and participating in any way that you see fit, the 2 weekends and the 10 Heartbeats per year, there are committees and teams, and also just being around. So stay in the Keybase and just contact us if you ever have any questions about how you can participate, because it is a decentralized system. I think there's something like a little ant, although I only see 3 legs, so it's half of an ant. But it takes all types and all hands, so please feel welcome to stay involved and co-create this community along with all of us. Anyone want to add anything there? I think we can just connect it to our purpose and our values and our guidelines. So I'll read it, and then any organizer, please feel free to give a comment. Our collective purpose: we learn complexity science by doing. We serve through deep time, and we include to innovate. Diversity is key, and participation is core to transdisciplinary practice.
So I saw a ton of diversity over the weekend, especially like in country. Like, there were so many people that were from the other side of the globe. Like, and I mean, I'm introverted, so by the end of the day, I'm like super drained, right? But like at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the afternoon/evening for me, it's like I'm meeting all these really exciting, interesting people that I want to continue to have interactions with, but like they're so far away. So really, diversity of time zone was a struggle for me this time. But we have a diverse community in all aspects, be it discipline or demographic background or whatever.
Thanks, Blue. Jessica or Sean?
I definitely, you learn complexity by doing. You think you know what it is, and then you meet somebody doing something else, and it's not what you thought it was. So I'm always learning something new, and I think that's something that was great about this. There were so many interactive sessions. It wasn't just talks. So we learned a lot by doing.
Totally agree. And it's through participation that we take these abstract purposes and values and embody and enact them. Our core values. So the first one is Complexity Weekend is itself a complex system. Education is active. We learn complexity by doing. Teamwork makes the dream work. Participation means accessibility and inclusion for all. Respect is key, and step up and be brave. What's one maybe that somebody like saw an example of in action? Where was their complexity values in action during the weekend?
I'll highlight one, and that's actually the first one. I've never experienced it quite as much as I did this cohort, Complexity Weekend itself being a complex system. I think the fact that we really moved most interactions in to Gather and had, like the fact that we're, live streaming right now in Gather, and everyone's kind of around in their co-working spaces, and they're going to move up here. I mean, it's so interesting to see the self-organization occurring through our social interactions, and how, one participant might figure out a novel way to interact or a new affordance, and how it kind of has a contagious effect, and you see it spread to other participants. And it's just so dynamic and interesting as everyone's getting onboarded kind of into our established community norms, but also the evolving of those norms. And especially as the world is starting to evolve, you're starting, one thing that was really fun this time was like a Sid and Daniel and Justin and others now starting to use the filter on the video, right? And it not just being your face on video. It's like, well, maybe what if I had it looked like I was a cartoon talking, or maybe I had someone else's face. You're just messing around with all this stuff. I think we're probably a little bit ahead of the curve, but I think that stuff's probably going to start hitting mainstream pretty soon as well. And just seeing those affordances be maximally used and dynamically evolving.
I agree. We were having just a freewheeling and respectful conversation. We were talking about technology. We were teaching and learning. We were installing software and doing silly things with our video. We were talking about trust and about repeated interactions and what is the proper role of cryptography and all of that. It's like, that's living complexity. So that's really special. Michaela asked one question, wrote, are there backgrounds from participants you were not expecting? Great question. Does anyone want to give a thought on that?
I mean, I actually, like, nothing surprises me at this point. But like, I mean, even like you could be a gourmet chef and show up at CW, and like cooking is a very complex like process system. Lots of things go in. Like what comes out as emergent. I mean, right? Like nothing surprises me at this point, honestly. So no.
You're a jaded complexity weekend right now.
Yeah, we're designing around that. One related comment that always amazes me is just the breadth of ages. Some individuals have only known the digital, and so they're very fluid with certain digital jargon and memes and ways of working and relating, and others are just so inspiring in how they've lived much of their life in a pre-internet time and still just show up and make Gather so enlivened and bring their perspective and bring important contrasts. So it's not that I'm surprised by the very young or by those who are older in years, but I think it's a very special example about how when you really open the door to participation from everyone, then people surprise each other. And then, yes, the organizers are just in our own little organizer chat, just making sure that all the wheels stay on. But then it's really for the participants to surprise each other with their different backgrounds. Just to recap the participation guidelines. 1, adopt a complexity thinking mindset. Communication is key. Relationships and teams. Embrace technology, but know its limits. And that entails using good audio and visual and communication etiquette. Full participation while appreciating diverse abilities. And then reach out on the edges and stay involved. So what's, at the end of the weekend, what's one that strikes any of the organizers here or something that they saw in action over the weekend?
Definitely like the AV tech. but really, like as Sean was saying earlier, I mean, this is my 3rd CW in Gather, and like probably my 5th or 6th like big event that I've done in Gather, and it just keeps getting better. Like the more I'm familiar with it, and the more like affordances get built into the Gather space, Sean and the Gather committee have done a really good job creating a space that really works for us. So, it was, I was embracing it, and also like, you have to deal with like the limitations of bad bandwidth or whatever may come up.
Jessica or Sean?
Yeah, Jessica, what do you think?
I had to step away for half a second, so I'm
No worries.
the question.
Go ahead, Jessica. Just which of these guidelines kind of did you see kind of resonate with you right now?
Oh, just embracing the technology at this point. I'm amazed. I've always been, I don't want to say it's not suspicious, but like how well this works out as an interaction. And especially for the past 2 years, everything's been digital, and I miss the energy of, the in-person conferences and meetings I've gone to. And so they've all been virtual, and this is the one I really think Gather brings the energy to almost the same level as in-person meetings do. So that's.
Yep. When you're changing your sleep and eating schedule and Blue needs to remind you to take a walk, that doesn't happen every day. It's something else she's reminding you of usually. Sean?
I'll speak to the first one, adopt a complexity thinking mindset. And tying it into the technology, I think, what makes Gather such a fun platform is, and really the only main difference between it and a Zoom or any Jitsi or any of these is you have arrow keys you can move around, right? It's like that bit of agency. So having a complexity thinking mindset, there's lots of things that go into it. Having a beginner's mindset, being uncomfortable or being comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? But also having agency, thinking like you're an agent in the system, agent-based modeling, all that way of thinking. And Gather, I think, as a platform really helps you feel that way, right? And a lot of what Jessica's speaking to is the organic sense of self-organization socially by just being able to move yourself in and out of spaces, right? That's all it takes really to have that kind of emergent effect that we've all experienced and love.
Great. One, Blue, please.
Oh, sorry. Just one like little thing to add on to that. Gather's actually cooler than real conference spaces. Like somebody just walks away, right? Like at a conference, it's like, how rude, right? Like, but they don't want to interrupt the conversation. They were listening, but they're distracted or their alarm goes off or whatever. People walk away and then you're left going, oh, that's so rude. Like how rude of that person. They didn't say goodbye or anything. And then in Gather, you can like just drop a note in the chat, like, sorry guys, gotta go. I'm out. And like, you can excuse yourself in such a more like polite way. It's pretty cool.
I agree. And I really love having the Gather chat because it helps like write a question and put it down. And so we can actually almost have like a higher fractal dimension of interfacing. Yes, it can be overwhelming sometimes, but multiple people can ask questions during someone says, I'm going to talk for about 5 minutes about what I'm interested in. And just please write your questions in the chat. And then that accelerates the whole process and makes it really special to see all those questions next to each other. So provide us with feedback and co-create our values. At the bottom of the program, you'll see the feedback form, which is really important. And that's a specific opportunity to provide feedback, but also at this bit.ly link, which I hope Sean will also post in the live chat, we have our purpose and values. So these slides that we just walked through have been iterated literally over the years in feedback with this document, our purpose and values document. And it has a tremendous amount of comments and versioning and contributions from so many participants. And we really look forward to the continued co-development of our purpose, values, guidelines, as well as a lot of other sections that you'll find in this document, like bannable offenses, a little spicy, as well as ways in which we've aligned through time and ways in which we hope to align through deep time. So if any of those things look like something you're curious about or something you want to help co-create, then the affordance is here. And just know that in this community, it's really what we make it. So if you want to make some suggestions or make some contributions, then we hope to provide that space for it to happen. Any organizers want to add a comment on that? Okay, so I think what we'll do is for about however long this takes, less than 20 minutes for sure, we're going to go to the role-based acknowledgements and go over who was in what roles and just really thank them for making this amazing experience happen. Then we're going to have the teams which are going to give live stream presentations come on during the teams section, and then we'll play the videos at the end. So I'm just going to read the list of the names in the order of the teams. So green roomers and those who are listening and those who will help. The order of the teams that will present live is Homer, Dentropy, DigiPip, Catechism Speedrun, Complexity Philosophy. So 1, Homer, 2, Dentropy, 3, DigiPip, 4 Catechism Speedrun, 5 Complexity Philosophy. So if those 5 teams could start to queue up or be prepared, we're looking forward to having you for about 5 to 7 minutes on the live stream, and come to the recording studio in the co-working space in Gather. So just so you could get that into your preparations for the next 20 minutes. Well, organizers, Sean, Blue, Daniel, Jessica, Evelyn, and JP, great work. It was a 12-legged race, and I guess we did it, and we had a lot of fun. So just wanted to personally and collectively thank everybody for their awesome contributions. We had a couple of months of the weekly meetings. We had some async work. We had some fun key-based times. It's not an insurmountable task. Do any of the other organizers want to share their experience, whether they're a first-time organizer or a veteran?
I just want to say thank you. And Jessica, Blue, what are your...
Thank you for inviting me. This was a good experience, and you guys were very supportive when it really was an organic experience. So when we could step in, we could, but if we couldn't, everyone else, gathered around. So this is one of the better organizing experiences I've ever had.
So yeah, just Sean and Daniel especially, because you guys are really the scaffold. So beyond organizers, you guys are the backbone of CW, and just shout out because it's really made our COVID year and our future complexity interactions way better and more fun and stronger and all that stuff.
Thanks, organizers. Sean?
I just want to say, there is definitely going to become a point in this deep time community practice when we won't even be. So it's fun. Thank you for that really generous comment, but also the community is the backbone, right? And we have to build that up so that, it is running in deep time and self-organizing and self-governing. And that's the challenge, right? And there's lots of great communities we'll talk about in a second in which you can get involved and make that happen.
One of the biggest changes to organizing in 2021 was the elaboration of the committees, because it used to be that every task was handled by co-organizer teams, from the outreach to the onboarding, increasingly legal and financial and technical, #Bolts, #ScottDavid. And it was pretty unmanageable for a little time. And then we kind of differentiated some of those tasks into the committees. And so event co-organizing, it's super fun. It's an emergent team. You get to talk to people who you wouldn't have been able to talk to and connect on a really specific scaffolded project that serves the community. So anyone who wants to organize a heartbeat or a weekend, if you're a participant, just let us know through email or message, because the more the merrier, and you'll be a totally co-equal part and a contributor to an event, and that's really special. We'd also, of course, like to thank the facilitators. So facilitators from every zone, every field, and they just did an awesome job. They got their intro videos in. They specified their availability by filling in the cells with the green coloring on the facilitator single source of truth. They juggled the links. They dealt with things as there was uncertainty and confusion and tiny errors. And so to each of these facilitators who each did it in their own way and showed up for their sessions, showed up for Colliding and Gather, dropped emojis in Keybase, they made it happen. So big appreciation to the facilitators. Does anyone want to just add a comment on facilitation?
I'll say a quick thing, and then I'm actually going to hop out of the live stream to help with the green room. It's going to be a fun experience this time. Huge thank you to facilitators. You make this event what it is. And there's so many different ways of facilitating. I want everyone who's watching this to see themselves here potentially. You can be a facilitator. It's not that big of a commitment or that difficult, and the community needs your perspective in this role. So I think that's actually the last thing I'll say. I just wanted to say thanks again to the organizers and facilitators and committees and everything that made this happen. I probably won't enter live stream again, so bye for now. I'll see you at the after party. Bye.
Peace, Sean. Dr. Proton, about to nucleate off. Then there are the committees. So I'll recap the committees, And these are teams. These are participatory complexity perspective teams. So if the teams that you hear from in the upcoming part of the live stream, which have all signaled that they're willing to have new participants join, if none of those strike your fancy, or maybe you're already going to participate in one of them, but you're just looking for some way to contribute to Complexity Weekend itself, I'm going to just list the teams and then what their mission or purpose is. So first we have Gather. Gather Committee is in charge of making sure that the Gather space is amazing and accessible and functional and bespoke for what our community needs. The Legal Committee is just beginning, but will start to research and then implement different kinds of legal incorporation strategies for our community. We're not a registered nonprofit or anything like that, but we want to learn more and make the best decisions so we can serve through deep time. Finances is about the financial sufficiency and survival of our community. So that is what deals with banking of the traditional fiat flavor or increasingly fun crypto flavors. Outreach is a committee that has to do with sharing information about events and about the community with others. And so if there are others who you think we could bring into the community, outreach is like a leverage point for you to make that happen. We provide like images and text that you can share and social media logins. So if you think we could have had more people who did art, or we could have had more people who had this expertise, or, oh, I know that there's this group in this country that's working on something, or they might like to learn about that too. So outreach is where you don't have to do that alone. You just check in, and there's a lot of ways to help spread the word about Complexity Weekend and participating. Onboarding is almost the next step after outreach. Outreach is taking somebody from not knowing about CW to hearing about it, maybe even RSVPing. And then onboarding is a committee that's going to make sure that that process of going from 0 to 1 events and beyond is really accessible, really seamless, and really customized to all the different ways that participants are being onboarded into the community. So this is also a very important committee. Wiki is something that we've only developed in literally the past few weeks, but we do have wiki.complexityweekend.com, and we hope that that's a reference point for our community through deep time, so that all these amazing chat threads and discussions can start to see a little bit included in this wiki. And then when someone says, wait, how has complexity been applied with ecological economics? We'll say, great question. Here's a URL that's like a starting point. And if you have something else to add, then please make those edits. And Wiki is going to be the committee that makes sure that that works from a technical perspective, as well as providing educational material. The website of Complexity Weekend is also something that we've changed a lot in the previous weeks. It might not look like it, but by the next cohort, it's going to be totally different. And especially over 2022, we're working towards our vision, which is to have the complexityweekend.com website be like your one-stop shop for the entire participation process. So you'll log in and it will be in your time zone, in your language, and it will say at some point in the future, yes, these are the events that I'd like to participate in, and they'll be added to your calendar, and it'll be automated and beautiful, and the synchronous and the asynchronous will be embedded within it. So whether you have technical experience and bandwidth or not, the website committee is going to be an awesome place to work on that and contribute. And then lastly, the DAO committee is at this point very exploratory, because everything we do, we want to keep our values in mind and serve through deep time. But the DAO, or Distributed Autonomous Organization Committee, is going to be looking at the possibilities of different aspects of Complexity Weekend being DAOified. So if that sounds like something you just want to learn more about, or it sounds like your day job and you have a little bit of bandwidth to spare on that topic, then get involved with this committee. So before I pass it to either Jessica or Blue, if they want to add something, if anyone ever wants to get involved with these committees or more, which might be judiciously spun up, message Complexity Team on Keybase or email complexityweekend@gmail.com, because that's one of the best ways that you can contribute to the community, either by organizing an event on the co-organizing team or by contributing to a committee. So Jessica or Blue?
All I have to say is definitely, if you want to be involved, the committees, we wouldn't have this great space if it wasn't for the Gather Committee and outreach. So more involved, the more the work can be spread and shared, and it can make it better.
Thanks, Jessica. Blue?
Just it takes people and bandwidth, like literal internet bandwidth, but also like people bandwidth and money to drive anything forward. So all of these things are super important. If you appreciate the community and want to participate, get involved, bring them in, we need them.
Thanks. And don't be afraid to communicate honestly. If you say, I am curious about legal and I have 1 hour per month, then we'll find the time for you to make that a special contribution. So no contribution is too small. We'd like to acknowledge our associates. So associates are supporters who are also aligned with us in vision and hopefully stay involved at every single weekend event. So we'd like to acknowledge Innovators Box and Monica Kang, who led amazing facilitator training very early in the pre-weekend to help facilitators rethink facilitation. Remoter Consulting Group, with more of a focus on online collaboration, and research mentors for the kind of conventional and unconventional research trajectories that we sometimes find ourselves on. So associate roles are, again, just those who are aligned with Complexity Weekend and help us in so many ways. We'd also like to acknowledge our supporters. So the only public supporter at this point for this weekend was Wolfram Language, who provided us very generously with software licenses. So if you or your team are interested in some use of these tools, then make sure to get in touch with us if you haven't already signaled it on your team registration form, because we'll be passing out these licenses in the coming days. Participant support is really one of the most important ways that the community can ensure its long-term success. Here's a PayPal link, paypal.me/complexityweekend, or connect with us if you want to donate through some other mechanism or use another type of currency. The primary costs which we cover with individual participant contributions are, first, the bulk of it is divided proportionally among facilitators who choose to opt in to the facilitator honorarium. So it's totally not a valuation of facilitator time. It's just a way that we can thank facilitators for stepping up and making the space to be in Complexity Weekend. We also have non-zero, but not huge, Gather bandwidth expenses and other kinds of costs like the website development. And at this point, the contributions are not tax deductible. We're not a 501c3, but #legal, #finance, we will get where we need to be when we need to be there. So Blue or Jessica, anything you want to add on that? Great. Well, I'm just going to reveal the information on the after party, and then we're going to go to the teams and hear about their presentations, and just that's going to be amazing. So the after party is going to be, as soon as this live stream ends, it'll be taking place in the public atrium co-working space. So the Nov 21 gather space is always going to be only for a cohort. So if you want to connect with a cohort participant, feel free to send that Nov 21 link, but the atrium is open. So that's where we're going to be after this live stream, and we're all going to kind of rejoin into the larger community and hopefully have some individuals who were not participants in this weekend but are going to be awaiting us there in the atrium. So it's just like a fun kind of, after the sprint, after the conference, but part of a broader community experience that we'll have there. Well, that actually concludes the organizer slides. So we will now move to the next section where we're going to have the teams come on and present. So I'll read the team names again, and then Alexandra Squasha would really appreciate if you or anyone else could queue up these teams. So I'll read the team names in the order they're going to present. 1, Homer. 2, Dentropy. 3, Digipip. 4, Catechism Speedrun. 5, Complexity Philosophy. So maybe if Blue or Jessica, if one of you could just do a little Newton's Cradle, run down to Squasha and ask her if she could get Homer and then Dentropy on deck. So meanwhile, let's just kind of recap the team formation process. We didn't require individuals to join teams. It's not a requirement of being in this community of practice to be on a participatory team. However, it's really an awesome way to learn by doing, include to innovate, and serve through deep time. So how can it be bad? We're going to hear from some teams that connected over the weekend and were brave enough to fill out the registration form and also signal that they were willing to have more participants from this cohort join their team. So first, before we hear from anyone, Homer, we're ready to hear from you anytime, but these are amazing teams. In the last 72 hours, they've connected with each other and on an idea, and they are also signaling that they're willing to have more participants join. So we definitely can have Team Homer join. I'm going to just walk down. This will be a little bit fun, but hey, Team Homer, we're definitely ready for you to come up and join. So here we go. Welcome to the first of the team presentations. We will allow the teams to introduce themselves and tell the story of their team and where they've been, where they are, where they're going. And I'll start a 7-minute timer, which is just a sort of rough guideline, but anything less than 7 minutes would be awesome. Welcome to participants, and please take it away.
Hello, I'm Shirley, or CB on Keybase, and we're part of Team Homer. Francesco
I'm
also here.
Francesco at Keybase. And we are Team Homer. We are interested in homelessness. We like to observe it. This is O. We like to model it. This is the M, which is stand for. We like to also integrate some experiences. This is the E. And we like to produce some meaningful research on this. This is the R. And the story of our team is long, but we are still at the start. We are looking where to start, from which angle and from which position to start capturing this problem of homelessness and how to model it in meaningful and reasonable way. And we have few ideas at the starts. Maybe I introduce one, and then Shirley might continue with the second. So one of the ideas which also Shirley's sessions on homelessness brings, this is idea of intersectionality. That one of the meaningful contributions of our modeling effort might be to show the intersectional nature of this problem of homelessness, that it's not just a case of losing the house, but it's connected to health, mental, physical health, also to drug use, alcohol use, relationships, state of family relationships, and so on. So it's very complex in the end, and we believe that if we convincingly show it, then it's also easily observable that we can't use single dimensional cures for complex problems, that we need also complex cures for this very complex issue. So this is one. point where we like to start, and Shirley then could introduce the second one, please.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think rather than, I'm not sure if there's a second one, but it's more that we have a lot of input in our channel, and there's many interests and ideas. And then also during the session that I facilitated, or the 2 sessions, people had also other ideas. And so we did want to focus on something doable. And I think that, we're excited to meet with the team, hopefully in the next week or so, as a larger group, because we've had some asynchronous conversations mainly about the topic. But we are interested, one of the tools that is prevalent in complexity science is agent-based modeling. So, some of the ideas are really about kind of unpacking a very complex phenomenon into, I guess, tractable areas of exploration. So, we observe a lot, and can we create these toy models basically, and adjust them, change them, and hopefully build up the model. Really start simple, but build up and see what happens. And that could be a real concrete, I think, and helpful way to get at this really complex, multifaceted phenomenon.
Thanks. We have a few more minutes if you wanted to add anything else, or I have a comment or a question. I just wanted
question.
From my side, I think the time is very important, so I give it to community as a gift.
Thank you. I just wanted to commend your team for starting early and noisily in the asynchronous channels and sharing so many resources with each other and keeping the discussion open, not just to who was going to participate, but what that looks like. And so I want to ask what kinds of approaches you'll be taking, but I know that you're going to do the diligence to make sure that you've really considered work that's been done in the space before and have experiences that will be brought to the table. So what are you excited for?
I'd like to say that I've been stewing around this, the issue of informal tent encampments in the city that I live in Seattle, Washington. And I know that there are many cities in the United States and around the world that people, where people, find themselves in these circumstances which are dire. And so, yeah, it's really an emergent issue. It's related to, political futures, actually, nowadays. We just had an election in Seattle, and housing and homelessness were at the top of the agenda. And so, yeah, I would love to be able to contribute in some, small way to the discussion that is different than what I've seen.
Yeah. And I'm excited about knowledge integration because thanks to all who participate in this channel, Explore Homelessness, thank you very much. Many resources. And I'm excited to integrate as much as possible of this knowledge in our modeling approach or effort. And I believe that the agent-based model is good way how to integrate this diverse knowledge.
Thank you, Shirley and Francesco, for a really important and respectful and critical team. So you may depart the live stream, and I hope individuals get in contact with you if they'd like to participate. Thank you, Shirley and Francesco. Excellent. Just 2 ants on a live stream. Haven't we been here before? But the next team is going to be Dentropy. So if Dentropy could please make their way to the podium. Sid, how goes it? What's it like being planar?
Yeah, I want to be more three-dimensional. I would tell you that. I'm waiting for the day Gather allows us to be more dimensional.
Let's bring Paul up. So I'm just going to run down. Dentropy, please, you are welcome to come to the front. Okay, so we're going to be hearing now from Dentropy of Project Dentropy, Damon, and following that will be Team DigiPip. So, Paul, please, I'm going to start a 7-minute timer, and I'll raise my hand when there's 30 seconds left. If we get there, good luck.
All right. So, hi there. I'm Paul, and I am looking for an answer for what to do with my life. My little sapient brain can't completely understand the world. Therefore, how do I decide how to navigate the mountain range of human experience? Over the last couple months, my brain has been experiencing a series of buffer overflows. For example, you can't understand yourself without understanding the environment and others around you. Irreducible complexity. Where do I end and the world begins? What is this constructive interference we call ourselves? What am I supposed to value? What am I supposed to believe in? How does one measure human agency? Here's a little thought experiment I want to run by everyone. Virtualizing the self. Let's first deconstruct how computers do virtualization. Computers, like the one you're watching me on right now, can run programs called hypervisors that create a secure environment to simulate one or more computers called virtual machines. Virtualization has many features and benefits. For example, on a computer running multiple applications, one application can crash the entire computer, stopping all other applications from running. With virtualization, you can create a virtual machine for each application. Therefore, when one application crashes, it does not take down the entire machine. There are also many security benefits to virtualization. There are running multiple applications because they can't. So with virtualization, it is much more difficult to hack one application and cascade to other applications. Think about how this applies to our relationships. Like, why can't we open up a high bandwidth meme interface directly with other people? Why can't we tune people the same way we tune a piano to produce constructive interference? Thing is, you don't tune a piano, you tune the individual strings that make up the piano. People do not have strings that can be tuned, but they do have memes. I like to think of the self as a mimetic sailboat, where all sorts of winds, where there are all sorts of winds we can be aware of while sailing the human memeplex. Some of these whims come in the form of beliefs, wants, desires, emotions, and values. The self sails these winds towards its desired destinations, whatever those are. By virtualizing the self, we can try on different beliefs, wants, desires, emotions, and values. We can see two running applications, such as a belief in an emotion or a want and a value, and see how they produce or don't produce a constructive interference pattern that we can also that you as an individual can sail. Now, what's the point of all this string of loosely connected memes? The point is that this memeplex thing we're all sailing functions like like this memeplex that we're all sailing within sort of functions like one of our brains, awash in contradiction. I think if we can virtualize different parts of ourselves while interacting with others, we can produce a constructive interference effect across the entire memeplex. I want to leave you with two problems I will be thinking about and building around over the next couple months. The first problem is, how do we scale and integrate our will across individuals? And the second problem is, how do we normalize meme vectors across groups of people? So if those ideas resonate with you, you can message Dentropy on Keybase. And back to you, Daniel.
I just have to ask one question because I know your project is actually immensely technical and advanced from a computer science perspective. So I really appreciated that you gave a qualitative and kind of motivational approach. Could you, in the remaining 2 minutes, detail like what are some of the computational architectures that you already have worked with, and what are you hoping to implement?
Okay, so I have a personal project I've been working on for the last year I call the Dentropy Daemon. The mission of the Dentropy Daemon is to use algorithms to enhance human agency while building infrastructure cypherpunks would admire. So, what does that look like in the real world? Gathering all of our metadata from different social media platforms such as Keybase, Facebook, Twitter, browsing history, call logs, etc., into a single API so we can generate an algorithmic reflection of our behaviors. So, I built a dashboard for Complexity Weekend that you can get access at dashboard.complexityweekend.xyz. It's secure behind a username and password. And from there, you can take a look at the algorithmic reflection of the Complexity Weekend community. So we can see who's the most active users. We can see who's sending the most reactions versus who is sending the most text messages. We can see, and you can deconstruct and get a better idea of who an individual is by immediately seeing how active they are across different topics. So if you would like access to this tool or help in its development, you can message me on Keybase.
Great. Thank you, Paul, open parenthesis, at Dentropy, close parenthesis. Awesome work. And as with all these teams, thanks so much for being open to having participants join. Those are the teams that we really want to raise up. So if anyone is interested or piqued by this kind of a presentation, then get in contact with Dentropy. So Dentropy, you may depart the live stream. Peace, and talk to you later. All right. The upcoming teams are going to be in this order: DigiPip, Catechism Speedrun, Complexity Philosophy. So I will walk down and I will call on, I'm trapped a little bit. I will call on DigiPip to come on next, then Catechism Speedrun, then Complexity Philosophy. So if DigiPip could come up, thank you. And then I believe if you could, Sean, get in contact with Complexity Philosophy, then we'll go from there. So, wow, we are cruising. Next, we are going to hear from Team DigiPip. So welcome, Alexandra. Please take it away.
Hello. So I'm excited to talk about this, and the current potential team members are all here with me. So Sid, Code, and Daniel. Very exciting. So I'm going to, first I'm going to post something in the chat for people who are in Gather that want to participate with us in this little exploratory process. And then I will share my screen to show the YouTube world what we're doing. Is that okay?
Yes, I can show that on the screen.
Okay. So let me share this window. Okay. So we are Team DigiPip. It stands for Digital Partner Pen Play in Parallel. And the main question that we would like to address is how can teams use collaborative visuals for effective meetings? And that can be in the form of text or images or movie, video. But the important thing is that people are looking at it at the same time and are able to edit the document, much like I hope that you are all doing now. So if we zoom out and go over to this section, these are some of the key terms that we would like to explore with collaborative digital drawing. So how can we improvise together, develop new tools, explore stigmergic creation, and playful coordination. Yeah, Sid or Daniel, do you have anything to add to this?
I'll go first and then Sid. Well, in 2018, Sasha and I wrote the original PIP, which was based around partner and group improvisation using ink on paper, drawing as it's otherwise known. And so DigiPip represents a natural and important extension into digital collaboration. And we find ourselves engaged in digital visual collaboration all the time. So I'm just really excited to take a complexity perspective and build on different people's backgrounds to ask and co-create, what does the future of digital co-creation look like and how could it be used? Sid?
Yeah, and I went through the paper that Alexandra and Daniel wrote, and I saw that most of the activities that we consider normal in the physical world, like the lab work that Alexandra has to do, does not essentially translate well to the digital world. So how do we design digital tools which not only allow for that physical world collaboration, but even surpass it? So that is the whole exploration behind this project. How do we design tools which enable coordination at a scale which the physical world does not allow us to do yet? So if you have ever collaborated over a Google Doc, written a book with multiple authors around the world, you already know what a digital coordination is about. And this project just takes it further.
Yep, like you can't have 500 arms touching one piece of paper, but 500 people can be editing a document at the same time. And I think it's just really cool to bring some of the, work from home or remote work into the remote play and creativity space and see where that comes together. Alexandra, there's 3 minutes.
And if you can zoom out, like scroll out, you can see that the canvas, again, if you scroll out further, the canvas and the possibilities are huge.
Yes. And we are an open team. So if any of this sounds interesting, or you think that you can contribute with your experience with doing collaborative visual editing, or if you have a way that you do this in your workplace that you just want to share your experience, I think we're very curious to hear how that actually works in real live teams. And one sort of connecting piece is that for this project, as a facilitator, I've filled out a facilitator catechism, and that was very helpful for me to put my thoughts together, but for others to understand what I'm trying to do, or where this project can be headed. And if you would like to read it, it's on the Teams page in the participant single source of truth. And we'll keep that open for viewing for people who are curious and want to join. Yeah, and I think that's it.
Yay, what a fun presentation. So good times. Thank you, Sid and Alexandra. You may both depart or both stay as facilitators just to hang out. Any other comments in the last 2 minutes of this team's presentation? All right. In that case, I'm going to ask
Let's speedrun this.
I'm so excited. I don't even know. I want to just take 1 minute to do deep breathing before the speed run, but I'm going to pull them from the green room. Hello, Project Speedrun. We are ready to hear from you next. So if you could make your way to the top of this room, you'll be on the live stream, and then we'll hear from Complexity Philosophy. So Project Speedrun, please come to the top of the room. We should have matched shirts, Sid. It's close enough, but welcome, Stephen. And let's see if anyone else is going to join from Speedrun. Otherwise, what are we going to do?
Hello. Yeah, I guess we can tell people a little bit of what a catechism is and where it came from.
Awesome. How about I'll give a quick 30-second or 1 minute overview on the session that we had and the catechism idea, and then one of you can share your screen with our catechism and speed run us through that. Does that sound okay?
Sure.
Okay, so the timer has started. A catechism is a document that's structured in a question and answer format. It's traditionally been used for memorization and religious dogma. However, RJ Corday, another facilitator, and I have been developing the possibility of using catechisms for project-based teams. So over this past weekend, during a facilitated session, we talked about the Innovators Catechism, which is a catechism format that's been adapted to the innovation context. And following a session on the Innovators Digital Playbook, which RJ and I co-wrote with Monica Kang, we had the insight from Sid to make a form that would make filling out a catechism something that was fun and gamified and exciting, as well as informative for individuals, teams, and organizations. So I will let either one of you share your screen and give a little bit of a speed run through the catechism and or the form. So let's see the form, please, Sid.
Yeah, so can you see my
Yes.
screen fully? So yeah, I will need help from you guys on filling up the form as a team. So what do we want the title of the project to be?
Livestream Catechism, Livestream Project.
Who will facilitate the project?
You will.
Sid, absolutely. 2 out of 3. That's democracy. 2 wolves and a sheep.
You're elected.
Okay, what is the start date? Let's just enter today's date.
I love that it's a different day for
That's
you, by the
about
way.
right.
In Singapore, it's a different day for me. Tentative end date?
So we can be time travelers. We can end it today as well. The end date can be
Ah.
before our.
We'll start in one time
Nobody-
zone and end in another.
Key problems, filling out project-based team catechisms rapidly and having fun while doing it.
Describe the users for this project.
Stephen?
Complexity Weekend. We have facilitators, participants, teams, and organizers.
I like how they all stare at you if you take time to answer.
Hurry up. You're not speed running. It's like a walk. Come on.
Okay, describe the mission or objective of this project.
For teams, provide alignment and clarity. For organizations, provide interoperability.
What are your avenues of approach?
Stephen?
Well, we have interactive forms. We're thinking in terms of populating our wiki from the Wiki Explorer through the form. The form could be a future generation of the current Complexity Weekend team registration form, but we'd like these to be maintained over time as people continue to work on their projects.
And then I'll add trainings and play shops and websites.
Yeah, and I will add that you can connect this form to any of your existing tools like Google Sheets, Notion, your existing knowledge bases, whatever. So existing infrastructure, existing knowledge management.
And somewhat more futuristically, we've talked about at some point incorporating smart contracts to check on whether team participants are really doing what they're supposed to be doing and throwing them off the team if they're not.
Or else.
Perfect.
Cool, that's all. That's the idea proposal. It's submitted to the Typeform and we can check it out in a centralized storage. So yeah, this can show up on your Notion or your website or your single source of truth, whatever you are managing. So that is the speedrun, guys.
And the idea is that those answers are able to serve the team in terms of providing alignment for the work itself, not making more work about work. And then Between the team and external parties, it's able to facilitate communication so that if someone says, well, who are the users of that anyway? Like, we literally have an answer. And then for organizations that are teams of teams and use project-based catechisms, those organizations will be able to find comparability and interoperability among projects. Like, wow, 2 teams have the exact same mission and they have only overlapping avenues of approach. Or 2 teams have identified the same situation, but they have 2 different missions. So there's a lot of room to grow and develop. Sid totally rapidly coded this up while we were having like a conversation after our session. And I can't believe it's only been 6 minutes since I started this timer, but we do have.
Yeah, he had
left.
it going literally in minutes.
It was a super fun session.
That was fun.
In the last minute, do either of you want to add anything else?
No, I'll just say briefly that idea is to have a single source of knowledge for teams.
Great.
Yeah, I would say that as we scale up coordination among decentralized teams, we need better ways to capture projects and project ideas. So DAOs or decentralized organizations are still figuring this process out, how to quickly onboard new ideas and proposals and all of that. So we need the tooling to be in place, and the catechism playbook is one step towards that goal.
And the last comment is for me that even a partial catechism can be informative. If someone says, here's my perspective on the situation, and really somebody should do this mission, or my mission is this, and I think we could do Avenue ABC, and I just don't have the bandwidth to do it, that can be really informative for organizations. So making a format where we can take advantage of collective intelligence in that way would be really important for different kinds of groups. So what fun we had. And the project is still open. We're in Explore Speedrun in the cohort team. So get in touch with any of us and we'll meet in the coming weeks, but more likely talk asynchronously and develop some domains and a few funny things we've been joking about. So Sid, Stephen, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Great. We're going to hear from our last synchronous team. And the last synchronous team is Complexity Philosophy. So I'm going to welcome them to the forefront, and then we'll hear from a few videos. So, hello, Team Complexity Philosophy. Please join the top of the room, and you will be on the live stream. Welcome, George, and welcome anyone else who will join. So I'll start the timer soon. Hello, Stephen, George, and anyone else who will join.
I'm back.
Back for the first time. George, welcome to the live stream, and please unmute, and I will start the timer whenever. Welcome, Mike. I'll start the timer, and really looking forward to hearing what Complexity Philosophy has to share. Thank you.
Daniel, thank you very much. What impressed me was the many threads through the course of the weekend where philosophical concepts and ethics and other aspects were being talked about. And one of the things that struck me is maybe there's a way of trying to tap into that and build a foundational understanding of what those philosophical underpinnings are. So we've got our mission statement is to develop a consensus philosophical narrative embracing complexity science. And we had a little activity a little while ago to try and talk about how we might want to start that. And I'm going to try and share that if I can find it. And yeah,
Yes.
So this came up. Everybody can see it, right?
Yes, it's on the live stream.
Yeah, so the title of the team is Complexity Philosophy. It's at complex_philos on the Gather. And if we're going to start thinking about foundations, one of the ways to do it is look at the words that we're using that show up and talk about, you know, kind of the etymology of those. What's the foundation of those? So I'll take the left side. Stephen's going to talk about the right side. we start breaking down the words complexity and science and philosophy. And so complexity, if you look at its roots, it is talking about being composed of interconnected parts. And then you go back to the Latin bases for that word, and it's also got this sense of surrounding and encompassing and holding fast and comprehending. So you can kind of see that the word complexity itself has a lot of complexity. It's very deep. And even back in the original roots, it was talking about the concepts of weaving and braiding and entwining. So complexity is a complex word. If we look at the word science, it's interesting to see that the etymology actually goes down to the concepts of to cut and to divide. So it's an enterprise which takes things apart to understand them. And so that's an interesting, dialectic or counterpoint with the concept of complexity itself. And then philosophy, going back to the Latin and the Greek, is composed of the philos, which is the love that we have, and sophos, or wisdom. So it's really the love of wisdom that drives us. So we think of philosophy as this cognitive heavy thing, but in fact, it has to be driven by love. Now, wisdom itself seems to come from Old German roots. Wiz, or wise, to see, to know, and then dom is the quality. So the quality of seeing and knowing. So it's interesting just to think about those roots as we move forward with an effort to build a consensus complexity philosophy. And Stephen, you want to talk about the other side?
Stephen, unmute, and then please continue.
Got it. Yes, thanks, George. I just met George, my homonym's sake, recently. And yes, we were throwing together some terms related to complexity, and I thought I'd look up some of the etymologies of those as well. Some of them were more interesting than others, but I will share what I found here. So the word scale, in the first place, comes from back in the 14th century and means a ladder or a flight of stairs, so from to climb. So not incredibly surprising, but some of these things just give you some additional insight, possible new perspectives into the words, and that is always good to be doing in complexity thinking. So emergence came from the 1640s. It means an unforeseen occurrence. And the etymology comes from rise up. Yeah, generative clearly has to do with birthing. It's in Genesis. Let's see. Entropy is from 1868 as a measure of disorder and means a turning toward. See, inference is from around 1610 as bringing into or conclude, which surprised me a little more. Evolutionary was an interesting one. That comes from the 1620s as an unrolling. Pattern came from, it's related to patron, and it is actually much more tied to planning and designing than we might think. So it came from patterning something after something else. Recursive says in running back. Let's see, level is an interesting one in that it generally means a flat surface, as you would think, but way back in 1863, it was already being used as leveling up, which is much more similar to what we're thinking of as multi-level. And let's see, fractals was also very interesting. Comes from to break, which is kind of what you would expect with the relationship with the word fraction, but from there, they go to interrupted and irregular, where this whole idea of regularity versus irregularity is very much central to the notion of fractals. So I thought that was a fascinating connection. And I will pass it back to George.
Yep, thank you. And Daniel, I think we have Mike is going to be joining our group as well. Mike, do you have anything you want to add to the conversation right here? He's still muted.
Yeah, feel free to add anything if you'd like to, Mike. Otherwise, just that sounds very interesting what you all are working on. And again, big thanks for being open to participants. Please, George.
Right. Yeah. One more comment is we have eight people that are have signed in, willing to participate. We don't have a particular endpoint in mind, but the idea of having continuing conversations.
We got Mike.
Okay. Oh, okay. Good. Thank you, Mike. So we want to invite anybody that's interested in conversations around these topics. I'm
not getting the technology here. Sorry.
Yeah. So I think that's our presentation, Daniel, and love to see anybody that wants to join us. You can join the team, and we're going to try and continue using Keybase for asynchronous and Gather for synchronous work, since those platforms are there and we're a little bit used to using them. So hopefully we'll see more people on those green mats.
Yeah, can you hear me now or?
Yes, we hear you, Mike. If you'd like to.
Okay, sorry. I'm just technology wise. I'm very having a difficult time here. So,
if you'd like to chime in before we cut off, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add.
I think I might have. There we go.
Okay, I guess we will.
All right, we're all on board. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you,
Stephen. Thank you, Daniel.
You may depart the live stream area. Just walk down, and you'll leave. So, again, awesome work by all of these teams. Thanks to the 5 teams that presented live. And if it's not obvious, presenting on a live stream is non-trivial with the technical, dare I say, even all the bolts are involved. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to feature the videos that were submitted to us by by teams previous to this live stream. So these teams all sent their videos in, and I'd like to feature those. So first, enjoy this OBS fractal. Wow, so cool. Okay, we're gonna hear first from Zuzar from Urs, who is making a team on clothing and storytelling. So let me pull OBS away, and then let's hear from Team Clothing and Storytelling.
Hello, Complexity Weekend. My name is Urs. I work in the field of costume design for film and theater productions, and I'm interested in mapping out current practices using a giga mapping methodology to understand better how sustainable practices could be introduced to the industry. I like to create a team on a Keybase called Clothing and Storytelling. Very much would love you to join this group if you're interested in clothing and storytelling, costume design, sustainability, and mapping processes. I'm looking especially for people who have experience with mapping or giga mapping and could help me or discuss how to do this best. Thank you so much, and see you soon on Keybase. Bye.
Awesome. Great presentation by Urs, and I'll just note, since that was a shorter video, it was really fun to talk with Urs during several sessions and several conversations we had, and it really just reflects the many ways which we can learn and apply complexity, because Urs was talking about costume design and culture and sustainability, and I was like, I'm wearing a costume. What do I do? So it's kind of fun to talk, and I just really look forward to this totally creative and really artistic way of learning and applying about complexity. Welcome back, Dr. Proton. Anything you'd like to add on that? Not sure if you heard the video, but anything?
No, I heard a little bit. Yeah, I heard a little bit of it. I was also talking to Urs quite a bit. I had a great conversation with him and Sasha and Tim, and it was really fun. That was one of the moments actually where he was talking about these ideas and he didn't really know necessarily how to connect them all yet. And we actually brought up the catechism at that moment, and that was an organic kind of in the wild, catechism moment where it was, what are some of these core questions we can ask right now to really make things clearer? And it was just fun to see the spark of like, it's starting to click. And so, I mean, even as soon as we had that conversation, it probably wasn't an hour or a couple hours later that this video was produced. So it's amazing how quick it can all really come together sometimes.
I think a few pieces to highlight there, again, because it was a short video, and really appreciate Urs, like your willingness to submit the video and to be open to having participants join in the cool little bottom bar. So one is participants of different backgrounds connecting rapidly and helping each other form teams and staying open to having participants join. Two, complexity from unconventional perspectives that deal with our day-to-day. I mean, what could be more tangible than the clothes and the culture that we wear and enact? And then also 3 would be asynchronous participation. So it's cool. It's the afternoon where I am. It might be the morning where you are, but maybe Urs is asleep. So we really recognize and acknowledge the participation of all time zones. And one way to do that is with these video submissions. So we have one more videos to play, but I think just those 3 points, just forming rapid teams, complexity from creative perspectives, and then including asynchronous community, that's amazing. So I'm just really happy that this could all come together. And I love that we give the affordance for that live chaos and for really polished and clear delivery like Urs provided. I'm going to provide the second video. So this is Team Regenerative Comp. I'm going to move my OBS. If anyone wants to learn live streaming, by the way, just message me.
Fantastic live session that Daniel gave on OBS and live streaming.
It was too fun. It was literally too fun. So we are about to hear from Project Regenerative Comp. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. It's 6 minutes and 30 seconds, so see you soon.
Hi, everyone. My name's Tim Lip. I'm part of the Regenerative Comp team, and this is Odin. Odin told me that he's going to get a COVID test today, so that's why I'm wearing the mask. No, just kidding. Of course, that doesn't make any sense. Why wear a mask online? But yeah, Tim, Odin, I'm from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. We have a bunch of other people on our team, as well as Odin, who's from Spain originally, but now studying in the UK with some really interesting fields. Our team is really about exploring how to enable more regenerative farming. Regenerative farming is unique from conventional farming in that it is based on designing a system of feedback loops between different plants that actually enable the farming process to be carbon negative or carbon neutral. And that farming methodology is, in its very nature, more complex than conventional farming, which makes it difficult and also a lot more complex to operate as a farmer, but makes the food taste a lot better and provides extra value in terms of nutrient density to the final consumer. And this group is really about kind of applying the tools of complexity science to that problem space in the hopes of enabling a lot more regenerative farming to become the norm around the world, to reduce climate change, and also maybe figure out a bit of what a happier world looks like, where there's more symbiotic relationships, not just between different plants in the context of regenerative farming, but also between individuals in the context of healthier society that has more positive feedback loops between different groups of people. Odin, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, not really. Like, if I manage to get something, because we are in a quite distance, so you have the farms, but I have a bit of ideas about botany because I've been doing some work in plant science for a time and in data science related. So I hope my contribution can go on that side, on the modeling side of it, while you make it real, right, in your setup.
Yeah, and I'll share the link for the Keybase team. That'll be publicly available. We'd love to have more people join. There's more people on there as well. Early on in the weekend, I volunteered to have Blue automate me as a person. And this was the description that I gave her of myself. And it ties a lot to the work of regenerative solutions to climate change. Basically, I work as a CTO for a bunch of farmers who are saving the world with regenerative farming practices. Imagine if the key to solving climate change was eating more. And all this is what the artificial intelligence robot says the next steps are in terms of our strategy moving forward. It's a complex mix of things. I'd like to compare that with what a group of different people commented on our team so far over the course of the weekend. We've got a bunch of notes in our shared space, which you can find if you go to the Regenerative Comp team space. You can look at these yourself, add any other questions, potential variables, just random notes. This is somewhat chronological. The real summary after discussing with a bunch of facilitators over the last week for me, or the last couple hours, were to really think about what the end product of this group is. And I kind of break it down into this kind of decision tree. So the end product will ultimately end up with a white paper and happy customers. But it's also, to get there, it's going to involve a systems map, some data architecture, building a pitch for investors and other supporters, and really getting our customers excited about something that is more than just a better supermarket, that feeds into global impact accounting so they can see how the food they're eating has impacts on reducing climate change, and ultimately ends up with in my mind at least, a huge impact story of more humans that are happy. They're having dance parties around fire pits, which is something I love to do. I'm actually not in the live stream because I'm going to go catch some live jazz in my neighborhood, which for me is kind of how I know that we're making a difference in the world, is if I get to play more music and dance more with people. But we'd love to have more people involved in figuring it out. I don't have a lot of experience, especially with data architecture. That's one of the things I'm looking for advice on, and love to collaborate with other people so that we take this massive ream of transactions that we're generating with providing food to people, and that feeds into something we can actually generalize to a much broader sense. And maybe feed into some really powerful agent-based modeling tools, and otherwise kind of understand the problem space as a whole. I've got some initial hypotheses there. That's what this is in terms of maybe how the data architecture should work. Some of our teams already, Jenna mentioned this tool of the customer journey map, which is going to be kind of one of our key next steps as part of the systems map to really understand what our customers want. But the goal is to really create a regenerative farming enabling model that helps more and more people impact climate change by just having better local food to eat. So if you'd like to dig into that question with us, please reach out, join the team, and look forward to collaborating with you more over the next 6 months, especially. I know that's kind of that's kind of my time window that I really want to focus on this quite a bit. It's to really dig into this so that for the next growing season, it can actually be practical and support thousands of Calgarians and hopefully millions of people around the world someday in the future. Thank you for watching. Look forward to connecting with you.
Wow. Great presentation. Thank you to that team for that really special presentation. There was so many pieces in there. I love that the timeline was specific, and it wasn't like, oh, I'm available for the next weekend because of my job. It was like, there's a growing season. There's food being grown, and there's seeds being planted, project seeds and real seeds. And we need to influence the food supply and the nutrition of millions of people because of how we think about this in the next few months. And we're going to be applying complexity. So that's my first take. Sean, how goes it?
I remember, well, I just want to share one experience I had with Tim and his team. And basically, they're one of the few teams that have actually utilized historically underutilized affordance in Complexity Weekend, which is stakeholder calls and talking to stakeholders outside of our cohort and getting feedback on your ideas. And so we actually enacted this great search across the facilitators to find moms in Calgary to connect to the team. And it's so fun just knowing, we have this cohort of, 200 or so participants globally and, 35 or so facilitators. And maybe amongst that network, we can find a mom in Calgary for which to connect to this team and get the essential feedback we need. And I thought that was just such a fun experience and eye-opening in terms of the potential as that affordance especially gets used more.
So that's all the teams that we have videos or presentations from. I just wanted to acknowledge the teams that didn't make a video or come on the live streams, which is totally okay. There's like a fractal, there's the teams that registered and are open to participants. So check the participant single source of truth and you'll learn about the teams such as Mycelium GRC. Mycelium GRC is making a human mycelial network. Shizlan, thanks for all your contributions this weekend and energy and activity. That's a great team to get in contact with. Team Uniswap, the full engineering and design process explained by Chris Paruch, who's one of our facilitators, who's a true expert crypto token engineer, one of the few and the true. And Chris is going to lead a team through understanding Uniswap, which is a decentralized marketplace for crypto token exchanges. And that promises to be quite a unique experience for those who'd like to learn by doing. Team Stupid. Who could forget? Alex Teo, I wouldn't use the S word for anyone but you. So I hope that those who relish in stupidity find you. Those who are turned off by it also do. And then lastly, Team Gem Finders with Justin, Klein, Paul, Dentropy, and Sean. You want to just give a quick little synopsis of that team since you're on it?
It's actually, I think they decided to be stealth, so I will keep that on the DL, but it does have to do with crypto stuff. Awesome.
Contact those people. Well, Sean, open parenthesis, @ Dr. Proton, close parenthesis, etc. What a weekend. With 7 minutes left, we won't even take it all, but we're going to head over to the after party. We're going to reconnect with the broader community. We're going to here in complexityweekend.public. What are your closing thoughts as we basically close out this weekend? It's our 5th Complexity Weekend together. It's our 4th Complexity Weekend online, 2 in 2020, 2 in 2021. What are you thinking about, or how do you feel?
I just keep thinking more and more about, that we are committed to building a deep time community of practice, and that this awesome experience that we just had is one that will happen 2 times every single year at the same time as a steady beat. For anyone out there who's interested in complexity and learning how to apply complexity, learning complexity by doing, interested in different perspectives and understanding patterns across systems. And we just want this to be, a beacon community to just always see, it's a lighthouse that'll kind of pull you in whenever it makes sense on your individual complexity journey or your team journeys. And I'm just really looking forward to those deep time dynamics of people, having spent years potentially and going through these experiences on and off, through their lifetime. That's the beauty of complexity and something that we speak about a lot, which is it's really hard, if not impossible, to be an expert in complexity just because complexity is in every type of system in every discipline, and you only have one human lifespan. So what do you do with that? And how deep can you get in all these? And you're always going to have aspects of complexity you're not aware of or will be surprised by. And I think that's the beauty of this topic, way of thinking, philosophy. I don't know what to call it, but just looking forward to meeting more and more people that are into this and just being in a great community together. Dan, what do you think?
Which means to close with all the fun that we had with all of the fractal dimensions as organizers, where we were true co-equals and co-created a scaffold for facilitators and participants. As facilitators, both of us, where we stepped up into leading and catalyzing participation during an interactive live session, and we both shared like the little tiny pie of skills that we both have. Like, Python, I know a little bit about live streaming, but that's just the tiniest sliver of the kinds of skills and perspectives that we'll need. And then us as participants just hanging out in Gather and on Keybase and being unabashed with emojis and with making sure that everyone's voice was heard. Like, it was such a fun weekend, and just wanted to say huge thank you to everyone who participated. Those who didn't participate, whether you're watching live or in replay, you're welcome to participate. We're there for deep time. So whether you need to get those calendar events a year in advance or 2 years in advance, or you don't know until literally the day before, that's okay. We're going to meet you where you're at. And that's real life complexity that just transcends any theory. So to those who are watching live, thanks for all the fun comments in the live stream, and those who made it happen over the weekend. Awesome work. We're going to see you in the atrium for the after party. We'll just remind you that the feedback form, filling it out with diligence and completeness would be extremely appreciated. Continued participation would be simply amazing as a participant, facilitator, or organizer, as well as supporter and eventually associate. Any way that you want to be involved in co-creating complexity, we hope that we've given you that opportunity and that you really make it happen with your participation. So, Sean, another one in the books. Talk to you in the atrium.
And we'll see you around.